Oh, all right. Well,
You're back.
man.
Serious, nothing worse.
Are we live on the audio?
No, we will be in a second though.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right, perfect. All right, guys, welcome to the Vigilante podcast, episode 45. Man, I can't even believe we're here
45.
already. We're making it happen.
45.
It's awesome, man. It's cool to see the new faces, the new stories, just where everybody's come from, where everybody's going. And we're fortunate enough tonight to have Tyler Hatch as a guest with us today. Thanks for joining us today, boss.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, it's our pleasure, man. I was fortunate enough actually I do business-to-business sales, and Tyler was actually hired on. He does the same thing as I do now outside of the entrepreneurial journey, as you guys have all seen and know about. So first off, if you don't mind me asking, what got you into a sales process like you're in right now?
Yeah. In terms of so for myself, I come from a sales background. I've got 3 years experience selling cars, which for anybody out there, I don't really recommend it. I recommend to get yourself into a different kind of sales. It's a hard life for sure.
Okay.
But there's money to be made there,
right.
Definitely. So it's an appealing thing. For me, I ended up getting into it coming out of high school fresh. Did a lot of extracurricular things. So I did FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America.
Okay, nice.
So I was very involved with that and really on your feet. And that was kind of the main thing, the main skill that I ended up developing. So I saw sales as a natural way to really continue that forward, grow upon that skill, grow other skill sets outside of that.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love it, man. This guy started piquing my interest. He comes up to me at work and he's like, "Hey, man," because I'm always reading, trying to learn. He's like, "Hey, you heard of this book?" I'm like, no, and there's not too many self-development books.
That's all you gotta say to him.
It got me hooked, man. I was like, "Who is this guy? What's he doing?" And then I heard that he actually runs his own podcast as well. That's right.
That's right.
What is the name of your podcast?
So it is the T Hatch podcast, obviously for Tyler Hatch. Definitely go check that out.
Yeah,
I will send a link over to Teague to put that below. As well as while you're checking that out, check out my music as well. I'm on SoundCloud at Tyler Hatch. So I combined the two in my latest project that I put out. So definitely excited about that. I want to get some ears behind it and really get a message out there.
So what's your music? What do you mean?
Yeah, so I just put out a new album called 2019 is Awkward. Been out for about a month now. And it's a commentary album about really the state of affairs really in 2019, kind of what it feels like to be an American living in 2019 and dealing with all of the different things that are pulling at you all at once. So many serious topics coming up. And even if you look at it from, say scrolling through social media, as many of us do, you can go from one completely very serious topic to something completely, jovial and joking in seconds, really. So it's a commentary really talking about some of the main issues that we're facing as a nation today and really trying to draw awareness to those issues and the fact that we need to talk about them, we need to focus on them, and we need to make it part of the forefront of what we think about really every day.
Right.
It's crazy you say that because today I was delivering mail and I was walking into the elementary school and the front door was wide open and these two little kids, I would guess 3rd grade, 4th grade, were right in front of me. And I heard the one kid say, "Oh, the door's open. Someone could come in with a gun." And I'm thinking, I never had to think about that going through school, ever.
Yeah.
And these kids are 9 years old.
Right. Yeah. And then they come home and first thing they see on the news that their parents is watching is, bam, this happened, this negative thing happened, this mass shooting happened, and all this crazy stuff. And it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least, like you're saying.
Yeah, and they think that that's all that happens in the world now.
Right, because that's all they're seeing that's promoted. Yeah. So interesting stuff. And I personally try not to watch the news. There's so much negativity, so much stuff gets spread that it gets tough sometimes. Got to be able to guard your mind with what comes in so you can have the right thought process.
Exactly.
So
I love what you said there about guard your mind, because I actually find it very important to keep myself caught up on what's actually happening today and not let it get ahead of me, because especially when we've got such a interesting political situation. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
In the United States right now, things are changing daily.
Right.
And even during the day, the situation can completely flip. New things can come out that we're unaware of.
Right.
And as unsavory as it may be at times, it's very important to be caught up on what's actually happening. And that's why I find it very important actually to take time to meditate, do some introspection,
Yes.
do whatever you can to keep yourself grounded.
Right.
Really trying never to get too high or too low, just trying to stay as even keeled as possible is what I find helps out the most.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. What does because you're one of the more positive people at work and have that great vibe around you. You know, people want to be around you because you make them feel good. What does a day look like to have that mental capacity and have that mindset?
Yeah. Well, first off, I appreciate that because you're also one of the most positive people that I've met, period.
Appreciate
regardless of whether it's at Wayfair or in life. So definitely appreciate that. But for myself, it's really about, walking into every single day with a purpose.
Yeah.
Everything that I'm doing, it has to have an exact purpose.
Right.
So when I'm walking into my day job, even though it's not what I want to do long term, it's not the way that I see myself getting my paycheck in the next 20 years.
Yes.
It is very important to me to make sure that I give every single bit of effort that I've got to something that I'm giving 40 hours a week to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I find it very important to bring that positivity to myself. And it's very easy to do that when you do that outwardly to others.
Yes.
And I like to compare it to confidence as well. You watch a guy like Muhammad Ali.
Yep.
And you see every time he says, "I'm the greatest."
Yes.
Every time he says it, you can see it in his eyes
Right.
that he feels it a little bit more. He
Right.
believes it a little bit more.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with positivity.
Yes.
If you're out preaching a positive mindset to everybody that you see, you're going to believe it yourself.
Right. Then it becomes easier and easier to become that positive influence and have that positive mindset even when the obstacles are coming at you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So absolutely beautiful. What as far as like what made you start? What started first, the podcast or the music?
The music started first. So I started music probably about 3 years ago. Started actually making it seriously.
Okay.
Been a passion of mine for pretty much my entire life.
What type of music is
Do you
it?
play an instrument or?
No, so it's hip hop, rap.
Okay.
So I try to think of myself as combining what a musician does with what a poet does.
Mhm.
That's how I try and approach my music, to
Okay.
where I'm trying to convey a message in a way that is going to pique someone's interest in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Because I want to attack every problem from really every angle
Right.
and try and articulate that to people.
Yeah.
So I find rap being, obviously it is an interesting genre today because you see everything ranging from, your SoundCloud rappers with the tattoos on their face and they're all crazy and, kind of like modern day pop stars. But then you get people like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole who are really telling the story of America from the place where they're from and really attaching the emotion to it. So that's what I find is so powerful about that form of music is that you're able to preach a message in a unique way while also attaching the emotion to it with the musical aspect.
100%. And I'm all about lyrical rap, man. Like J. Cole, like you said, Kendrick, Nipsey, all them guys. Like you gotta be talking about something, whether it be talking about winning, whether it be talking about buying your mom's a house, making sure your team's taken care of, making sure everybody around you is flourishing and sticking to the script. Even the Rick Ross and the Mac Miller, and they're all talking about becoming better and gaining more. And there's a lot of depth into it. It's interesting because I've studied a lot of history, I've studied a lot of ancient mythology, I've studied a lot of different things that these guys are intelligent. And most people, the first time they'll hear something, they'll listen to it. I know you'll notice this from listening to Dave Grohl and a bunch of other people from the classic rock days.
Yeah.
There's some intelligent people, but you listen to a song the first time, people will be repeating the words. They don't even know what they're singing. And next thing they know, eventually one day it's going to click and say, oh, shit. Yeah. I've been saying this the whole time, and they've been telling me the same message that I just found out, but it's taken me 10 years to get there.
It's so funny that you say that. That's actually exactly the realization that happened to me that made me so inspired to actually start making my own music. I am very big into Logic.
Yeah, Logic's a killer too.
Amazing with his lyrics, with his message.
Yes.
All about preaching peace, love, and positivity.
Right.
And you'll hear him say it thousands of times.
Yep.
But I was rapping one of his songs, and I used to, as a kid, just pull up a lyric sheet, rap along as best I could to almost everything.
Yeah.
And I was rapping along. He's talking about, you can do it. You just gotta get out and start doing it. And that's really what it is. It's these guys are regular people, just like the rest of us.
Yes.
They just finally decided to stand up and start doing something.
100%.
And that's the only barrier in your way. You think it's you versus the world, but it's really you versus yourself.
100%.
And once you make that realization, you can take the next step forward and really start to have a positive impact.
Because that was one of the biggest realizations I had when I started working in LA, when I started seeing people walk out of the Rolls Royces, walk out of the Bentleys, and they go into lunch, and it's like they're walking into the same place I'm eating lunch at. And you start realizing that same type of thing. It's like, they're just people. These guys had family problems too yesterday night. Their kid didn't want to wake up to go to school this morning, so they had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like they're going through the daily challenges, going through the daily life. But most people, it took me I had to see that separation, because as we see these superstars, we see these pop stars or whatever media makes them out to be.
Yeah, you see them on TV and they're bigger than life.
Yeah.
And you put them on a pedestal. Next thing you know, there's a big gap of separation. So what for you helped you realize that, man, these guys are just people?
Yeah. I think two people's story really resonates with me. One, Logic, like I was already talking about. For anybody who doesn't know his story, he comes from a very, very rough part of Maryland, where Section 8 housing, drugs in and out of the household on a daily basis. Didn't know if his parents were going to be home when he got there. Just a horrible. And despite the situation that he was in, despite everything that he had to do every day, working 2 jobs to support himself, ended up living in his friend's basement, who was gracious enough to let him live there for a year without even working a job.
Yeah.
And he worked tirelessly every single day, every single minute that he could be making music. He was making music.
Right.
And he knew at the end of the day, it would pay off. It didn't matter where he came from, that as long as he put in the work and became a master of his craft, he could do anything. He could do anything.
Yes.
Same thing with another artist I love, Tyler, the Creator.
Yes.
He comes from, the hood in LA.
Right.
And a single mother.
Now he's got his own shop on Melrose,
Exactly. He's got, Golf Wang, his own clothesline.
Yep.
He's got a show on YouTube where he gets to go around and really do whatever he wants.
Yep.
And they'll pay for it. They'll foot the bill. And, it's amazing to watch people come from literally nothing.
Yes.
Having an even harder path in life than many of us have, and be able to achieve great things simply because they knew that if they put in the work and became the master of the craft, they could do it.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired me to do it. And really, I want to inspire other people to do the same thing, is to get out whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be a podcast.
Right.
Whatever you want to do, get out and start doing it. That's the hardest step.
What's crazy is we're told that our whole life growing up, you can do anything you want to do. And everybody hears it all the time. The ones that make it are the ones that really believe they can do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? Because, like I say, we just hear it. It's kind of goes in and out. But there's those people that, all right, I believe you, I'm going to do it. And they do. They usually just do it.
Yeah. And it resonates with them. And it's like, everybody's like, man, this person's a genius, or this person did this. And it's like, it was disguised. Yeah. That genius was disguised in all of that persistence. And
or they got lucky. That's my biggest pet peeve. They got lucky.
Right. They create their own
sees the work that's put in.
Exactly. 100%. And it all comes through, and they might have the break. It might take them 10 years. It might, obviously, that 10,000 hours, if you've ever read Outliers or anything like that, of mastering your craft. Yeah. It might take them years and years and years, and pop, man, they got rich overnight.
Right.
No, man, they were getting rich in, like Logic, he was getting rich in the basement when nobody else was willing to put in the work. And for people like you, you're working 40 hours a week, and then you're putting in time into music, and then putting in time into a podcast. You're putting in that extra effort. Yeah. And the law of cause and effect is a real law. As much as you put out, and people are like, yeah, put out the positivity and it'll come back to you. Like, it's the same with work ethic and results. Mm-hmm. As much as you dedicate to your craft, it's going to come back to you in that same amount, and if not more. Yeah. I mean, we live in an abundant world. I mean, you look at the grass, you look at the trees, there's so much abundance in the world that people are just missing it. They're focusing on all the scarcity.
Yeah.
They're focusing on all the things they can't have, and well, maybe, I don't know. And there's that lack of, I'm not sure. And so the results are not sure. If you were sure of the effort you were putting in, the results would be sure right back at you.
But these same people heard that they could do it if they wanted. They just don't really believe it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. I just seen this picture with you know Jim Thorpe?
Yeah.
He's an old school guy. This girl is just on my Facebook. She posted a picture of Jim Thorpe, and it was at one of the Olympics. And he had 2 shoes on that were different kind of shoes, different kind of socks, because somebody stole his shoes before the event. So we picked up 2 out of the trash can, and he ended up getting some gold medals.
Yeah.
It's like
Wow.
that's absolutely nuts, and we're out here making excuses. Well, so and so could do it, but he was a born leader. He was born gifted. He was born that way. It's like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah, we're a world of excuses.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
and even ourselves. And again, back to guarding our mind. Like
Mhm.
we got to guard it from ourselves sometimes.
Exactly.
It's like, who's that voice in the back of your head that says in the morning when you wake up, maybe you could sleep a little longer. You don't need to do it.
You don't have to go to the gym.
Yeah. Or when you need to make another phone call for a sales type of operation, or when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it. It's like there's always that little voice that says it's trying to give you that excuse out. Who are you going to listen to?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know where the result's going to get you if you do it. It might be a little scary sometimes, but at the end of the day, something new's going to come from it.
But how much, like in the morning when you wake up, how much better do you feel when you just say, all right, I'm getting up,
Yeah.
even though that voice is saying, just sleep about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, and you conquer it.
No, I'm getting up, I'm going, I'm doing whatever.
Right.
And you feel so much better.
It goes back from people being a creature of circumstance to a creator of circumstance.
Yes.
Instead of their body running them, they run their body. I went and I got on the wrestling mat for the first time in a while the other day and got to wrestle with some of the high school kids again. And man, it was absolutely beautiful. I love wrestling. I just love physical exertion and learning. And I started talking to these kids, and I took out a picture. I said, hey, I want to show you something. I said, there's going to be a couple places where most matches are won. And one of the most important places where a wrestling match is won, or any type of competition, for example, is when both people are tired, both people are physically exerted, but who's going to push the pace at that time? Because in wrestling, when both people are tired, like you'll kind of circle around, you'll both give each other a little break.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to go and he doesn't want to go because
Yeah.
both people are gassed, and it's like, what's happening? And then I said, if you can push the pace during that time when your opponent isn't willing to, you're going to start dominating them. You're going to break him here, and now he's going to think, how did he keep going when I couldn't? And now he's not even thinking about the match he's going to lose. And I pulled up a picture of the human nervous system. It's a brain and like all this, like all these
Looks
weird
like wires.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And I was like, all right, guys, this is you. This isn't you. These muscles, they're going to get tired. They're going to tell the brain, stop, stop, stop. You need to stop. You're tired. Your lungs are going to start, stop. You need air. You need oxygen. You need more. I said, no, that's all of that isn't you. This is our little vehicle we're driving in. So this is you in that picture of the nervous system again. And if this can tell the body what to do, you're going to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely going to conquer. And it comes with that with anything. And even in a mental tired state, if you can conquer that mental tired state and say, all right, my body's tired, my body's getting lazy, it wants to get distracted by something else. If we can bring it back and focus and really dedicate and start something and then finish something, productivity is going to go tenfold.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I love what you're saying about going back to who are you going to listen to?
Right.
You know, make that choice. One of the most powerful realizations I've had in my life came a couple of years ago, and it goes back to something when I was probably 10 years old. My dad told me I was a kid with a crappy attitude.
It happens.
And he told me, he said, you can choose your attitude.
Yeah.
You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be miserable.
Right.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
And I'm a kid, it's like, oh, whatever. That's
Right.
dad just saying dad
I'm
stuff.
bad,
right?
Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, years later, probably I'm about 19, 20 years old at the time, it just hit me. It was like, oh my gosh, that was the most powerful thing I could have ever learned.
Yes.
And it just made sense all in one instance that whatever the situation is, I can choose to view it in whatever way I want to.
Right.
I can view that thing that I don't want to do as a chore, or I can view it as a challenge where I can measure myself and see how well I can get it done, how fast I can get it done, and get another opportunity at it next time.
Right.
I view, walking into a 40-hour week day job, not everybody loves their day job,
Right.
myself included, but if you walk in with the attitude of this is amazing because it provides the income and the time necessary outside of this that I can put a roof over my head. I can
Right,
drive a
yeah.
nice car, and I can pursue my actual dreams.
Exactly.
That's an amazing thing. And that's how I can walk into work every day with a smile on my face
Yep.
and say, I'm doing this for me.
Right.
I'm doing this for me to get better and grow.
Right. And then it's, as soon as people get out of that, because when you start a new job, it's exciting either way.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there's new stuff, there's new challenges, there's things I don't know yet. And so it's like that honeymoon phase when you're meeting a new girl or something like that. And everything's great. You're only seeing the good things about them. And then after you get used to them, you start getting the repetitions in, you're in the same grooves every day. People are like, oh, well, I've been doing this a little bit, or, oh, well, the way that girl put the dish in the dishwasher was different than how I would have done it. So it makes me a little angry. Like, you start nitpicking the little stuff, and then you start getting, then the negative attitude starts coming.
Yeah.
And then the burnout comes after that because you're no longer happy, you're no longer excited. And if you could only keep that focus of, hey, I'm challenging me today,
Exactly.
you're going to, again, back to the thing, conquering.
It's like, how many times have I said, man, so-and-so made me mad.
Right.
I chose to be mad at the situation.
We had this psychology teacher in high school at Syracuse High. His name was Mr. Burnson. He was not a wrestling coach, a baseball coach as well. And first thing, when there's anything that you don't like that I teach, so that's on you. he said, first thing I want to tell you guys about psychology is you choose to be offended. So just back to exactly what you're saying is you can choose your own attitude. If something bad happens to me and I'm offended, that's on me.
Yeah.
100% that's on me. And even if the person did me wrong, it's on me to get offended, because at the end of the day, there was a reason that they did me wrong, and it might have been because they were hurting, might have been because they couldn't figure out how to accomplish something they needed to figure out. It has nothing to do with me. I have a buddy, for example, and I had to go through this when me and my daughter's mom split. I couldn't figure out, because that was the first time, I wasn't a great guy in high school by any means, but then after my daughter was born, I said, okay, I want to try things. I want to give you all of me, all of my effort, because I'd never given it before. And then some things couldn't be forgiven, which I understand. Again, I wasn't a great guy, but I couldn't figure out, because that was the first time when my best wasn't good enough. I was like, what was going on? Like, what was wrong with me? Like, why couldn't I do it? And I have a buddy who's going through a divorce right now with the same thing. And he's like, he's like, I can't figure it out. Like, all these people are telling me, like, man, like, how come you're a great guy? You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. I was like, brother, I said, it's not you. It's not you not being good enough. It's you figuring out your own value, because they had to figure out their own value. There was nothing to do with, like, was it my best? Yeah, it was my best. But because my best wasn't accepted, doesn't have anything to do with my value.
Almost like you can't take it personal.
Right. You can't. You really can't. And it's the most interesting thing, because you have to be able to figure out how you can get the own value out of yourself again, and realize that whatever anybody else does, the right people are going to accept it. The wrong people are going to disagree with it.
Yeah.
No matter what level you're at. If you're making a penny a year, if you're making $1 billion a year, there's going to be haters and there's going to be supporters.
Yeah.
And you have to have, I think Grant Cardone says it, and I love this. And he says, if you ain't got no haters, you better get you some. Because if you ain't got no haters, you ain't doing nothing impactful enough.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that whatever you're going to do, people are going to love it. People are going to dislike it.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about it? Do you like it? And if you like what you're doing and you know it's true, there's that Shakespeare quote, stay true to yourself. If you're staying true to yourself, everything else is going to start falling into place. The puzzle pieces will start connecting. And if you can start not caring what the hate says and not caring what the negatives say, and like you said, keeping the middle ground, not get too fulfilled with the good things, not get too big-headed and not get too cocky about it, stay right in that humble middle ground, the magic will start happening.
Exactly.
The magic will start happening.
Yeah, I think trying to remember exactly what you said about really finding the value in yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's a very, very important thing.
Right.
In my belief, outward problems are a reflection of inward needs.
Yes. And when you say needs, do you also mean, because I think it's this as well, insecurities?
Yeah.
Like having to conquer those own insecurities and fill those holes.
Exactly.
Because that's one of the biggest things I realized I had a big ass insecurity.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, why wasn't my best good enough? I was like, oh shit, it was. But where was the insecurity? And I had to go look hindsight to figure out, oh, here was the insecurity, here was insecurity, here was insecurity. And I had to start feeling those, and that's what started gaining my confidence.
Yeah.
That's where it started coming. It's like, boom, it's like, oh, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
It wasn't all me. Like it's 100% okay.
Yeah.
That somebody didn't accept you for you. It's
Yeah.
all good.
I went through a very similar thought process when I recently lost my job.
Yeah.
I had a month where I was just crushed,
Yeah.
absolutely crushed after it. I had
Right.
spent 3 years there, just like you said, giving everything I had, and my best wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to get over that.
Right.
But once you actually spend the time to do some deep introspection and ask yourself the very hard questions, ask yourself the things that you've been putting off
Right.
forever.
And
Yep.
answer honestly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And taking the time to answer honestly, because you will lie to yourself
Yeah.
and you won't realize it. And that cycle will repeat itself
Yeah.
over and over and over again until it finally clicks. And
Right.
you finally give yourself that honest answer. You look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, it's on you.
Yeah.
Like, let's fix this.
There's another car salesman, and he sent me a video, and it was about this NBA player. And I might have talked about this already before in one of the podcasts, but he just goes into college, and he tells his dad, I'm going to be in the NBA. I'm going to be in the NBA. He says, okay, son, I believe you. Okay, son. And he goes to college, and he's not starting. His dad calls him, son, why aren't you starting? He's like, well, politics, Dad. Well, this, Dad. Well, this, Dad. And it's like he, in his mind right there, he's lying to himself, even though he knows that he can get in the NBA. His dad just says, son, I thought you said you're going to be in the NBA. He's like, well, what about this? He said, let me ask you a question. How does your coach get paid? It's like, well, by winning. And how does he win? By playing the best players, right? He's like, well, yeah. I said, all right. Are you going to be in the NBA or not? So he's like, yeah, I'm going to be in the NBA. So he starts working. He keeps working. And eventually he makes it to the NBA. But long story short is he was giving himself those excuses and those let-offs. It's like,
Yeah.
It's okay to have that integrity with himself because of politics, because of so-and-so's parents likes the coach better, so they have a better relationship, so he's getting the playing time. Absolutely not. It goes back to wrestling. Like, if you lose a match, there's nobody else out there that you can blame it on.
Yeah.
And what, you're going to blame it on the ref? Well, if you blame it on the ref, guess what? You shouldn't have put it in the ref's hands.
Yeah.
You should have been doing more to make it to where it wasn't in the ref's hands, because everything is on us at the end of the day. And just like you said, I truly believe that as well, as our outside world is a direct reflection of our inside world. And it's that quote, as above, so below. Like, and there's some weird stuff to that, to space and humans and atoms. Like,
That's the theme of Stranger Things on Netflix.
that's the theme of it.
Well, that's everything's.
Oh, the upside down world, huh? Yeah, for sure.
As above, so below. I like
All right. And it's weird. Like, and that's in a lot of like ancient stuff too, that they talk about that. The Egyptians saw that, and a lot of ancient cultures. And I love archaeology. I love studying into that because, dude, they were smart. They were onto some stuff that today's day has separated from.
Yep.
Because of technology, because of all the distractions. I mean, everywhere you look, it's like there's distractions to keep you away from a man's purpose. And whether it be you can look online, and there could be, bam, for a young man, there could be 30 different women that you can look at, and boom, you're distracted for hours now. Or sports or something like that. It's like everything we're doing, if it's not progressing us in the general direction of our ultimate purpose, we shouldn't even be wasting our time on it.
Yeah.
Or if you're passionate about something and you spend a lot of time on it, start thinking of, hey, how do I turn this into an income stream?
Yeah.
So, for example, I like watching fights a lot, but it's not paying me to watch fights. So it's like, okay, how do I start getting paid on it? Well, maybe I start studying, and maybe I start sports betting.
You start fighting.
Exactly.
You be the fighter,
Right.
not the watcher.
Exactly. Become the fighter. Next thing you know, you're training, you're gaining money, you're gaining sponsorship, you're gaining traction. It's all about, again, like you're saying, the internal world is going to reflect directly outward. And it doesn't happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let time catch up. You gotta let the world function, and you gotta let everything catch up. But as long as you know that it's coming, it's gonna come.
Yeah, it will catch up.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's like, if you watch every successful person, I couldn't figure it out, man. And like I said, I love this because he came. He's like, man, you ever heard of this book? And I was just like, because I read a lot, man. I was like, no. I was like, I haven't.
Another reader.
Yeah, right. I get hyped up. And oh damn, you know what was I just saying before that though? Just forgot. It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
well,
gone.
I definitely appreciate it. I noticed you right off the bat, just your positive attitude, and making sure you engage with everybody. That's something that's unique to yourself. Even I can't accomplish that. Walking around, recognizing everyone, understanding who they are as a person,
That's
and
tough.
reacting appropriately to that. It's incredibly hard, and that was inspiring for me. And that was like, again, same thing you're saying. Like, I gotta get to know this guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's something more there.
Right.
There's something more there.
And it's weird how it happens, man. It's like attracts like, It
Yeah.
really does. It's the same birds of a feather flock together. Flock together. Y'all meet the flockers. Can't talk today. But it really is so true. You just start becoming, gravitating towards the people who are like you. And then you get better and you get better and you get better. And just like you're saying, it's so weird that like there's things that I recognize about people. It's like, man, at the beginning, I used to be like, man, that person has such a skill set I would want, or almost envious of other people's talents and abilities, instead of wanting what they had and respecting them for it and saying, man, I know what I'm good at, and I'm going to be the greatest at what I'm good at, and I want you to be the greatest at what you're good at, and I don't want to take away from it. That really helps me a lot.
Yeah.
It really helped me a lot in being able to be more adaptable and saying, okay, and helping identify these people's strengths, because if you can help focus on their strengths, next thing you know, they're going to start flourishing and flourishing and flourishing. Everybody else is focused on the weakness.
Mhm.
Man, well, you didn't do this right. You didn't hit your metrics this week. You didn't do your job right. You didn't do this right. Everybody's hounding on people all day long about what they didn't do. And I'm a very results-oriented person. Like, results speak to me. I love results. Like, let's get results, no excuses. Let's be clear. Let's be concise. And that's how I like to be talked to. That's how I like to interact with people. But it's weird. You gotta be adaptable, almost like a chameleon, And a chameleon, they change usually depending on like mood and things like that. And it's not like on their demand to stay in a camouflage, but you have to be able to be permeable and be adaptable like that, to be able to change and just love one another for who they are.
Exactly.
Because if you can love one another for who they are, they're gonna love you for who you are.
Exactly. I think it works the same way with respect as well.
Yes.
A lot of people, take it very personally.
Right.
If they think someone doesn't respect them.
Right.
But really, what it is just like love breeds love, respect breeds respect.
Right.
If I show respect to the people that I want to respect me, it's naturally going to come back the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they will see that I'm making that effort, that I respect who they are, what they value, what they do. And they'll see that in you as well. They'll start to see what you do well. They'll start to respect you. They'll start to respect what you do and what your strengths are.
Right.
So it's very important to put out what you're trying to get back.
100%. And the secret of living is giving.
Exactly.
The more you give, the more you're going to give back. It's a weird law. What would you say is your purpose? Because you talked about delivering a message. You want your audience to hear your message in your podcast and your music. What is your message?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, very much the key of my message is that we have the power, and people don't realize that. It's just like we were saying with these very successful people. They're just like you and I.
Right.
Well, at the end of the day, these billionaires, these corporations, the people that run them, the people that run our government, they're just like us.
Yes.
And the only thing that makes them different is we all agreed upon this system that has a certain piece of paper that's worth them X amount of value.
Right.
And they have more of those pieces of paper than we do.
Right.
Well, if 370 million of us stand up and say, yeah, I don't care about that piece of paper.
Right.
It ceases to have any value. It ceases to exist. Exactly. The same thing happens with our government. The same thing happens with everything in life.
Right.
It's all upon how we decide to look at it.
Yeah.
So my message to everybody out there is to respect themselves, do plenty of introspection and understand who you are at a very deep level.
Yes.
And once you do that, you can then start to approach the outward world through a completely new lens.
Yes.
Where you can say, well, no, this doesn't work for me.
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to take these steps to make it work for me.
Right.
And if that still doesn't work for me, I'm going to take these other steps to make it work for me. And at the current moment with 2019 is Awkward and some other projects that I'm currently working on, very much of it is focused on how our governmental system is not working for really anybody,
Right.
except for the top 1%, except for corporations, billionaires,
Yeah.
really. And it takes a lot more than one person saying, oh, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
Because where's that going to get? There's 370 other million people who need to agree to that.
Right.
So for me, very much what I'm trying to do right now is spread awareness about what is actually happening right now and try and get people to take a step back and look at things for themselves.
Yeah.
Don't take what I say at face value. Don't take what the person you watch on TV says at face value. Just research for yourself.
Question everything.
Exactly. And in a healthy way.
Right.
Even people that you trust, even people that speak the same language as you do, you need to scrutinize them sometimes as well.
Right.
In a friendly way. You need to find out for yourself, well, is what they're saying right?
Exactly.
And that will lead you down a path to, I like to use the word enlightenment,
Yeah.
Where you can really figure out what the truth is for yourself
Right.
in your own eyes.
100%. I absolutely love that. What do you think about this? Because you mentioned the 370 million people standing together. It's weird because I remember when I was in 5th grade, we hit the 300 million mark because they had this whole little presentation. It's just weird stuff like that. I won't forget, They had it on the news like the 300 millionth baby in America, We're already boom up to 70 more million.
Yeah.
And that's with people dying and getting born at the same time. So that's pretty interesting. Things are only increasing. Now, with all of the people increasing, what do you think about all of the division in the world? And especially, and I can't speak for other countries because I've only traveled and visited as a tourist to other countries, but what do you think about in America with all the division? Because you can't, in my opinion, you can't come together if everybody's worried about each other's differences, whether it be race, whether it be religion, whether it be beliefs, whether it be just really input on life. I mean, you can look at it as small as who's your favorite NFL team.
Right. Yeah.
If it's a rivalry team, it's like, F that person. Like, fuck him.
You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head right there because we've been put into this framework by the media that we watch, by the conversations that we have with each other, and by the course of action that has happened over decades that has led up to our lifetimes.
Yeah.
The course of action has really set up a framework where it is this team versus that team.
Right.
And you have to pick a side.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong.
Right.
That's empirically wrong. You can't measure a country and their success and the health of their people on a linear line.
Right.
It doesn't work at the end of the day. There is, we could say 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, but it's, 75-dimensional.
Right.
What you would have to do to measure the success of a government.
Right.
So to play against each other in terms of teams, in terms of on a single plane, it simply doesn't work. So I like to look back to our founding fathers and what they did in the American Revolution.
Yes.
The motivations behind why they did it and how they set up the system to prevent that from happening in future.
Right.
So let's think about why did people colonize the United States in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, it's because they were being tyrannized in the United Kingdom, where they didn't have freedom of religion, where they were discriminated on based upon their identity,
Right.
based on, of course, religion, who they are, the color of their skin,
Yep.
their gender. All of these things were becoming discriminatory things
Right.
because the government had failed to set up checks for itself.
Yes.
So people who got into power could put their own biases into play without being checked. So people come to America, as it's known at the time, and start colonizing.
Right.
Obviously, we know the story. We get 13 states. Eventually, they decide to revolt against the British government, who had been ruling over them at the time. Well, why did they do that? They had standing armies in the streets, in their cities, guarding over them 24/7.
Yeah.
We have that in the United States of America today.
Well, I mean, let's get a little technical. Look at the phone, where you're getting listened to 24 hours a day, all the time. It's like you can't even be an individual today without getting hammered in some type of way, right or wrong.
Yeah, what this thing in my pocket is listened to, I am on so many lists.
Yeah.
So many government lists.
Shit, for real.
But they had standing armies in the streets.
Yeah.
They were getting taxed with tariffs that
Yeah.
were crazy, astronomically high
Like the
on
Boston
normal
Tea
goods and
Party.
services.
That's why they got lit up.
Exactly. What do we see today? A tariff on China, where the vast majority of manufacturing happens in the modern economy,
Yeah.
in the modern world economy, that is.
Right.
So everything from our smartphone to a gaming console to a TV that you watch anything on to your
Right.
car has tons of parts manufactured in China.
Right.
So these tariffs on these items are causing them to be unaffordable by the American people, just like what happened to tea, just like what happened to stamps. You know, they were taxing stamps
Yeah.
essentially to slow down the movement of information.
Yeah.
They wanted people to not be able to communicate as freely. What do we see happening today? We see companies like Google attempting to censor the internet.
Yes.
We've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen the whistleblower that recently came out, but essentially pointed out that this was not just a bunch of random acts that Google's doing that's, oh, why are they doing that?
Right.
Why did YouTube choose to do that?
Yeah.
It was actually a collusion case. Exactly. And
All of it's strategic.
Yeah,
I mean-
exactly. And so all these corporations, all of these, people that interestingly tend to rub elbows with each other,
Right.
start acting in a
Right.
certain way.
Right.
And it's very reminiscent of what was happening at the time of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Well, what eventually happens, the British government, they finally surrender and say, okay, fine, you can
Yeah.
be a sovereign nation, you can govern yourselves.
Right.
So what happens? Constitutional convention after constitutional convention, debate and debate and debate all day long.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there were common goals. They wanted to avoid a monarchy, essentially avoid a situation in which power could be consolidated to such a small degree
Yeah.
that it could then be used in perverted ways.
Exactly. And I think at the end of the day, we all need to have people around us that can check us and that can guide us in the right direction, because at the end of the day, we're all animals, man.
Yeah.
We are we have thoughts and we have ideas and we have biases that aren't always correct. We can have the best heart, the best of intentions, but you may take it off to a negative. And as you start gaining more and more and more power, that line starts getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And as soon as you cross it, you can't just go back.
Mhm.
And so you got to have the right people around you to be able to say, Teague, you're fucking up here. This is where you got to adjust. Teague, this is where you got to get better. This is what you could have done better. And they may not be always right too, but at least now they're making me question, like, okay, is there something I can do better? At the end of the day, continue to keep that strength of who we are and continue to keep our main goals at the heart. But if we are getting too off the wall with it, you got to have the people that you can respect, that you can also hear it from. It's like the people on a team, on a football team. If you're making a play and Teague, you missed this hole here, you could have done it. It's like, man, I did everything I could have done, but I did, man. I put 100% energy in. It's like, no, you just got to look at it from this perspective because you missed this gap here. And that's exactly where the guy ran through for the touchdown, in this gap. Oh, shit. You're right.
Exactly.
You got to have that team around you to be able to give you that checkup from the neck up, but you guys all have each other's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
It's like a parent at the end of the day, or a good coach, a coach who wants you to be better than they were.
Yeah.
To where a good parent, I should say as well, same type of thing, who wants you to be better than they were. They're just trying to give you the best advice they possibly know. They may not always be right.
Yeah.
But as soon as you can glean something from it to help guide you in that direction, it doesn't take away from you or your value. But just keep running and don't go off the deep end and start losing control, because that's how negative things start happening. Then you can start taking away from people and hurting people who don't deserve any of that negative environment.
Exactly.
And sometimes we might get a little more selfish too. And you might have to have somebody,
It can come quick.
right? Especially as money starts coming. As money starts coming, it can get easier to hog the plate a little bit more,
Right.
instead of give your friend a fork
Yeah.
and let him eat too. And so you got to have those people who you can respect, that can, again, just like you're saying, give you. And there was the family fathers, like you're saying, they're battling against each other all day long.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they had their one goal.
Yep.
And they were all achieving that one goal, even despite their differences, despite all the craziness. Like Benny Frank, man, I love Benny Frank. He's a badass. I like his
That's
he's a killer, man. Like, he's incredible. His autobiography was nuts, but he was doing some wild stuff at the same time. Like, he was a wild man. But at the end of the day, he wanted these principles to happen. and they were all human. They were all making mistakes in their own right, but at the end of the day, they created something beautiful, an absolute masterpiece as a team. So,
And the biggest thing that they laid out there, and you found through every single passage that you read through that entire document,
yeah,
is unalienable rights.
right,
Essentially saying that we are all in this together.
yeah,
After all, America is the great melting pot.
right,
So it's not about this team versus that team. It's about all of us coming together and saying, what are our common interests?
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're saying. We need to find out what we have in common, what our goals are, and then how do we achieve these as a group,
right.
instead of as individuals.
Which, could
Bad
you
stuff
imagine
will change.
if it was, instead of this team versus this team, it was one team?
It is.
It all combined,
Right.
and it's one team.
There would be so much productivity, it would be absolutely nuts.
Unstoppable.
But there's a lot of money in keeping people separated and
Yes.
divided. And I seen this. It was like a little. It was like a comic, and there's two guys from different sides of a war. They both had guns and they were pointing at each other, and they had the thought bubbles, where the thought bubble, and it was one thought bubble, so they're thinking the same thing, but they're two guys. They're both pointing guns at each other, and it's like, I don't want to hurt this guy, but this guy wants to hurt me. And both of them are thinking that same thought. So what are they going to do? They're going to take each other out. But if they would realize that this person's just like me, he's thinking the same thoughts as me, he's breathing the same air as me, bleeding the same blood as me, had the same insecurities as I had before we had to conquer them internally. It's like, man, this person is trying to feed his family too. This person's trying to do its best from what he was educated to do. And just like you said, there's so much division. And I think that's very strategic as well, to say the least,
Well, it's interesting to think about it. We are all suffering the same problems.
Right.
Whatever side of the argument that you're coming from, people in the inner cities, they're suffering with poverty, not enough jobs, and not enough help to help them get there.
Right.
There's no education available to them. Well, what do we see happening in rural America?
Yeah.
The very same thing. There's not enough jobs. They don't pay well enough. People are starving,
Right.
and there's no education or prospects to get out of that.
Yeah.
That's the same situation for all these people. They just have some very minor differences that come from the place that they grew up. But
Right.
if they realize that they're suffering from the same problems that all kind of come from the same root causes, something really magical can actually happen.
Agreed. And it's so interesting because they've been educated in the same way for over 100 years, but the 100 years, everything's been changing around them. So how can you have that old style? And yes, principles are always going to work. Principles are going to last throughout times, throughout changes. But how can you have that old style learning old time frames when everything's changed? When everything's new, everything's different. And again, it's strategic. It's like, when is the education system going to change? Because then it comes from, there's not even the division of just people. Now you have a kid going through school and you divide him through 20 different subjects, let's say, instead of figuring out, Tyler, what's your strength and what is your benefit?
Exactly.
Now he's going to go through, well, I'm kind of good at this class, I'm kind of good at this class, and then they're telling me I need to go to a school, but I don't even know what I want to go to a school for. And so now I'm going to go, you know what, let's do it. Everybody else is doing it. Let's do 100 grand in debt. Let's go to this school and say, maybe I'm going to figure it out. The first 2 years of my college are really just to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell happened to the past 16 years where you're supposed to figure out what you wanted to do? So you're not wasting time in all of that extra stuff, because there's going to be things that I'm not good at. So, for example, I'm not the best at Excel sheets. I'm not the best at, I'm pretty good at math, but I didn't love it.
Mhm.
I didn't love it. And I like to see the results of it, but I don't love to figure out all of the inner workings all the time. And so it's like, why would I continue to take something that isn't going to be exactly who I am or the outcome to what I'm going to be?
Yeah.
And now we're divided from other people to where we think we have to get good at 20 different subjects instead of getting amazing at one subject.
Yes.
And what's your biggest strength? What'd you say?
For me, I would say it's communication.
Communication. So let's say I lacked in communication, and it's like, I'm going to get good at exactly what I'm good at. And if I lack in communication, instead of me taking away from my strength, I'm going to bring Tyler in as my friend, and we're going to become a group and say, okay, now I got a strong communication. Now I got a strong, my biggest strength. Now Corey, we have his biggest strength in there. Nobody's worried about the weaknesses. We are going to fill each other's gaps with each other's strengths, just like a big giant Power Ranger, just like whatever it may, and you can start going and conquering these bad guys. You can start conquering bad and big problems that are really affecting the world today. And it all comes by getting each other's minds together And instead of worrying about that inferiority of, man, I'm shitty at math.
Yeah.
It's who's good at math and who has the same goal and the same concept as me, that we can go do something better, and let's bring them in. And okay, let's focus on each other's strength, and let's bounce back and forth, because your weakness is my strength and my strength is your weakness. So let's collab. But if I was divided the whole time, whether it be again through religion, race, whatever it may be, a belief, gender, or now school, now I'm divided in subjects, now I'm divided in inferiority complexes. Oh shit, man, I got an F in this class.
Yeah.
I got an F in art, got an F in art, so I must be garbage. Next thing you know, like, people start thinking that way.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that come from? Where did that come from that you had to be good at everything? It's Einstein's quote. He says, if you judge a fish by it trying to have to climb a tree its whole life, it's going to think it's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even what it was made to do. And if we could change the education system, and I know Elon was working on some stuff like this for his own kids, where he would go, where the kids would decide what to learn. Like, okay, hey, you guys want to learn how to ride a bike? They're like, yeah, okay, perfect. So let's learn, what do we need to, let's break this down. How do we build a bike, and how do we get everything so that we can learn to ride it? And so they broke it all down, and there was a few math equations in there. Okay, we have to learn these math equations to build this bike. How hyped up are you going to be to learn that math? Like, it's like, hell yeah, I'm about to be a math wizard, because I'm going to be riding that bike down the street at 20 miles an hour, getting that adrenaline rush as a 10-year-old kid, flying down the mountain.
Yeah.
And if you could start deciding and switch the script of how education is, and start finding, hey, how do we change how these people think? How do we change how these people learn, to where they're excited to learn, but they're also learning what they're good at, and learning and identifying who they are in the meantime? Magic's going to happen. There's a guy, I forget his name. I think it's Robert Greene. He does 48 Laws of Power and The Art of Seduction, and Mastery is his third book. I haven't read Mastery, but a guy that I respect highly has been talking to me about Mastery a lot, and just some of the ideas that it has. And it's that same type of thing of people all day long, like, man, I don't even know what I do. I like to ask people, hey, if you had one thing that you think about all day long, what would it be? That's my favorite question to ask people, because then they start thinking like, oh shit, I don't even know. Well, family, or will this, or problems, or money, or stress, or whatever it may be. It's not generally what they're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is, like if it's their kid or something, but it's not generally what they're passionate about. And if they took the time to identify what they're passionate about, most times you just have to look back to your childhood. When you're like, hey, what was I loving to do? Like you were talking about your grandson, where he just likes to be able to break things down, put it back together, and see all the inner workings of it. Yeah. And if you start putting him through education, the normal education system, and you start putting him in all these different areas, he might forget about that.
Yeah, he might start hating it.
Yeah.
He's 6 years old, and he's mechanical as can be. It's crazy to see. It's just crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'd urge people to do as they self-reflect and get real with themselves and get honest with themselves, is find out, what did you love doing when you were a kid that just hyped you up? And I tell you what, like, I love to adventure, I love to go explore, and I love to talk to people.
Yeah.
Like, those are my two things right there. And so it's like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to help people. I want to talk to people. I want to explore. I want to go see ancient sites around the world. I want to study. Archaeology and study ancient civilizations and wonder what is going on, because there's some crazy stuff. Like you were saying, the people bumping elbows, they know some stuff, and I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on. And if people could go back before they're like, man, I don't want to be at school, I don't want to be at work, what did you like to do? And then you can start formulating, well, what am I really passionate about?
Yeah.
And then you start understanding, well, I was passionate about this, I really loved this. And now you can start thinking, okay, well, how do I turn this into an income stream now? Because somebody's making money at it. Whatever passion yours is in today's day and age, somebody's making money at it.
Yeah.
And you can go model them, insert you into it, because there's nobody better at being you than you.
Yeah.
And as soon as you can insert you into that model, the game changes. Just like Kobe Bryant inserted him into the Michael Jordan model.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, nobody can beat the Mamba mentality. He's a monster. It's that same type of thing. Figure out who's doing great at what you like to do. It doesn't have to be the same. Get creative.
Yeah.
What's coming next in the world? What are people going to be looking for? How come they're going to be looking for it? What are you looking for?
Exactly.
Because if you're looking for it, I'll bet you 9 times out of 10 somebody else is looking for it. And it's just all about that identification.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I love what you said. What are you looking for?
Right.
It's very much about finding a way to define your own success.
Yes.
And that's where you'll find the true happiness, if you will, in life. Is defining your own success. You know,
Yes.
I talking about education, high school, how they try and send you in 100 different directions.
Right.
Yeah.
For me personally, I got crap grades because I didn't really care about anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, I understand the stuff, I test good, but I don't really care to do the homework because it doesn't interest me. So I spent my time, I was an anomaly to the teachers, the principals, all that, because I wouldn't really do that. I had like a 2.3 GPA or something like that by the time it was all said and done.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I was president of FBLA. I was, vice president of our debate club.
Right.
I ran 2 benefit concerts for our community to help out a family pay for care for cancer for their child. We also help pay for a specialized wheelchair for someone in need in our community. And it was huge because for me, it was always about, I want to be part of a greater good.
Right.
I already know I can do that math equation, so I don't really care about doing the homework.
Right.
When I could spend my time doing this, when I could spend my time doing something great.
Exactly.
When I could spend, my time working on these things that are going to send me to Nashville, Atlanta, Chicago, which I got, was so lucky to go to through FBLA. Those were the things I wanted to spend my time on, and being able to measure my success based on that instead of another framework would have completely changed that entire dynamic.
Right.
And really, I think if we're able to change that dynamic, not only for our children but for ourselves, we can really shoot ourselves out of a cannon and headed into the world that we're into.
100%, and changing the game. It's so interesting, man. It's like you see eras of it in athletics. Even you see eras of football teams. You see eras of fighters. You see eras of styles, and it's like that's something that, and I think it's just because of where we grew up. Like we were just scrappers. Like no matter what, like we're gonna make an impact here. Like you're gonna know who we were, no matter what, good or bad. But it's like we are the shakers and movers of this era, and everything that's already been done has been continuing to go on. But change is happening so fast, and anybody can do it. We can really be a huge part of that if we identify our passions, identify our wants, and it doesn't matter really the age we're at. We're the shakers and mover of time itself, because the time era that we are in as a whole, as a unit, any person can step forward and say, I got an idea. I got an idea, and I'm going to make something happen with it. Go. Exactly, because there's so many people, and oh man, I love it. There's this talk from Napoleon Hill that I listen to, and I love listening to Napoleon Hill, just his mindset. But he was talking on stage about some of the stuff he did, and he's like, yeah, as soon as I got off stage, there was a guy in the audience. He says, Napoleon, look, I had the same idea as you. I wrote it down in my journal right here 20 years ago. And he looks at it, he says, well, a lot of us had the same idea. He's like, who went and did something about it though? Yeah, it's like who went and did something about it though? And it comes with getting that confidence enough in yourself, battling through those own insecurities, battling through those own really missteps you had growing through life, to be able to say, you know what? Fuck it. I had to learn all that stuff I built brick by brick. I'm confident enough now that I can go do something on my own.
Yeah.
I had to fail on my face for 5 years straight to be like, oh my gosh, I can do it. And that was the biggest realization right there. It's like, I can do it.
Well, that's what, like Patrick said earlier, all it takes is you got to start.
Yeah.
Just start.
Just go.
100%.
Just go. I love it, man.
Yeah.
What's your goals moving forward with the podcast that you have and the music that you're making? What is your long-term end goal? Obviously, like you said, you're working to become a big portion of the greater good. But what does that mean to you, boss?
Yeah, well, it means quite a lot to me. Really, what I want to achieve with the podcast and with the music is to be able to create really a movement of people who want to have open and in-depth conversations.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I love when someone challenges my logic.
Right.
I love it when someone says, no, you're wrong,
Right.
and here's why.
Yeah.
That's the most important part, though, is the here's why.
Yes.
And I want to really build and inspire a coalition of people who all are ready to, collaborate with each other, but also asking each other, here's why.
Right.
Well, why that? Why this?
Yes.
It's staying curious. It's staying speculative.
Yes.
But also doing that to yourself to the point where you have the evidence to back up your argument. You know, I'm very opinionated in nature, as some people will know me. And it's because I put lots of time and effort and research into what I believe, because I don't want to believe something if it isn't true, and I don't want to tell somebody something if it isn't true.
Right.
And that's why one of the words you'll hear out of me all the time is, well, I'm not the most well-read on that topic, but here's what I think.
Right.
And that's a big thing, is being able to outwardly say for yourself, well, I'm not the expert on this topic, and my opinion's only worth so much.
Right.
Or
I may not know everything, but this is what I do know so far.
Exactly. Or if you do know, like, oh, this is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I've been researching this for hours and hours.
Yep.
Lay it on them.
Yeah.
Lay it down thick. And I want people to do that to me as well.
Yes.
And I want people to poke a hole in that logic that I made so that I can figure out how to patch it.
Right.
Or if it's going to sink the boat, well, I got to build an entire new boat that doesn't have that problem that can sink it.
Exactly.
So that's where I want to get with everybody, is to build really a coalition of people who ask questions and are okay having questions asked of themselves.
Right. No, and I love that, because it takes a lot of humbleness to be able to accept that. Because when your beliefs are challenged, two things happen. Either boom, the defense walls go up, and you're gonna pride, no, he's wrong, and then the separation, or you have a conversation or a debate where the goal is progress, and the goal isn't who's right and who's wrong. Let's figure it out together. And just like you're saying, now you can start patching those holes, and the whole idea becomes more solidified as it continues to grow.
Exactly.
And that takes a big man to be able to even do that. That's huge, boss. Much respect to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. What is, as far as social media goes, where can I find you?
Yeah, you can find my podcast on YouTube. My music is going to be on Spotify always. You can find the podcast also on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. It's going to be out there. It's the T-Hatch Podcast. You can follow me on Facebook for updates. I really only post about the podcast and the music there, so it's not really where you're going to find casual stuff.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter as well, at THatch26.
Nice. Okay.
That's you're going to see the music, the podcast, as well as you're going to see some more outward opinions. You're going to see me sharing information that I find useful, things that I didn't know. That's oftentimes what I'm going to share, because if I didn't know something, chances are somebody else doesn't know it either.
Right.
And I think the best thing that we can do is share information with each other.
Yes.
So those are going to be the best places to find me. Facebook, Twitter, if you want to see those updates. But if you want to see the podcast, if you want to see the music, YouTube and SoundCloud is the place to be.
Cool. Perfect. And just Tyler T-Hatch Podcast on YouTube even?
Yep, the
Okay.
T-Hatch Podcast. Tyler Hatch on Spotify.
H-A-T-C-H?
Yep, THATCH.
Perfect. Hell yeah. And that's the same way. I love how you said that we're sharing information that helps you and helps you grow, and that you learn things new, because that's the same thing. Like, I'm following a bunch of different people on Instagram. That's my bread and butter is Instagram. I spend a lot of my time there, and I'm always seeing stuff that inspires me. So I'll share at least one thing every day that inspires me. And it's like, it's not coming from me. It's just stuff that helps me. And same thing, if it can help me, I know it can help somebody else.
Exactly.
Because we're all going through those same battles. We're all going through the, fuck, I didn't want to wake up this morning, and I didn't want to go through the grind again.
Mm-hmm.
But without that stress, without that struggle, without that resilience, there's no progress and there's no growth. And so you got to enjoy the grind.
Yeah.
And just like going to work and challenging yourself and saying, oh shit, I don't want to be here. I'm going to challenge myself to enjoy it while I'm here. And I'm going to beat everybody else at it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to love doing it, because I'm going to start loving doing the things that people don't want to do. And then you're going to start getting the results that people don't get because they didn't want to do the things.
Yeah.
There's a quote, and I don't even know who says it, but it's like, I will do today what others won't, so I can live tomorrow where others can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if you get comfortable in that uncomfortable, you're going to start. I got told today, the girl's like, Teague, because I love it. Like, if I see if I see somebody down, like, or just having a rough day, I try to make it an effort of mine to, like, I'm going to build this person up today.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this person smile, like, whatever it may be. And the girl says that, I says, you're incredible. I hope you know that. She says, Teague, you might be a little crazy. I says, I wouldn't want it any other way. Because if I'm a little crazy, that means I'm gonna be getting some crazy results. And like that's what I want to be. It's like I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be that cookie cutter person that just got shopped from education to a job to family to they're having their life as if it were written in a book that you didn't write.
Exactly.
And I love being crazy. You know, I'm a little insane to what I do, but I love it. And even I think it was Conor McGregor. He was like, it's like you got to be a little insane to your craft. You have to be, because not everybody's going to understand it. Not everybody's going to understand why you're putting the 10,000 hours in, and when everybody else is sleeping, when everybody else is worrying about the parties, is worrying about the sex, is worrying about the next object, the next movie coming out, the next shiny thing, and we're doing something different. Man, what's that guy doing? He's out there reading. He's out there working. He's out there doing his thing, and it's weird because nobody it's weird. It's like people almost don't believe you can do it until you start doing it without them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh shit. Once you start doing something without them, they're like, oh shit, now they want to be a little part of it, and it's not because of what you were doing. And you can't be the guy where you're too prideful to allow anybody in or be like, no man, you weren't here, you weren't this. And yeah, there's gonna be people that from the beginning that were with me and they're gonna eat. I promise they're gonna eat when I make it where we're going. But there's also people that are gonna ask for knowledge and ask for guidance, and it's not because they didn't want to come along with you at the beginning. It's because they had their own battles they were facing at the beginning, and so they couldn't conquer themselves enough to get into that uncomfortable position.
Exactly.
And it was a little easier to go to the bar this weekend because all your friends were gone. It was a little easier to spend the money on the new movie or the new concert or the new whatever, the new car, the new whatever, if we couldn't afford it. And man, I'm just telling you guys, that's the biggest thing I could urge and that I'm taking away from tonight is identify what I loved when I was a kid. How do I turn that into, if that's my passion, how do I turn that into an income stream? And how does that income stream or my passion together help other people become a part of a greater good?
Love it.
I mean, incredible. So I get hyped up off it, man.
Yeah.
Before, what are we at on time, Uncle Corey?
107.
107. All right. So let's wrap this thing up. We're gonna have to have you on again because we got some good topics we can break into, I think.
I love it.
But what before we wrap this up, do you have any gold nuggets to throw out to the listeners?
Yeah, in terms of something to take away, I would say the biggest thing to focus on is just take a look at yourself.
Yeah.
And in a very humble way, and figure out what it is that that drives you.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying, find your passion. Figure out what it is that motivates you to move forward.
Yes.
And that has to be your sole focus every second of every day, but also realizing that all the things that have to add together for you to be here right now today are also all the things that have to add together for you to be where you want to be 30 years from now.
Yeah, right.
And if you can align those two views to that central thing that drives you and motivates you, that's going to push you forward through all the hardships and all the trials.
Right. I like it. 100%. What about you, Uncle Corey? Any last words from the Trail Ninja?
No, I just appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
It's
for
good.
having me.
Heck yeah.
Pleasure. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're very thankful, man. Very fortunate to be able to have the mindset that you brought to the table tonight. Excited to see the feedback we get from the listeners as well as what we're going to be able to start throwing on the idea table together as we start having further conversations.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
me too, boss. Me too. All right, guys. Thank you so much honestly, just thank you so much. You guys are incredible. Love having you guys on. Love having you guys listen. Love hearing the feedback. And just like Tyler said, like we don't know everything in the world, but from the people that have already reached out and said the little wins that they've had in life, and some of them were very big wins that they've had in life, just from small messages that we can relay. We didn't always create them, but we can relay them. And we are just so blessed. So thank you guys so much for always joining us. And as always, coming to you raw.
Good stuff.
That was great.
Heck yeah. I like it.
Yeah, thank you.